Euzu billahi mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi rabbil alamin ve salatu vesselamu ala seyyidina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecmaîn. Esselamu aleyküm ve rahmetullah everyone. Inshallah, we have been discussing the meanings and the tafsir of La ilahe illallah vahdehu la şerike leh, lehul mulku ve lehul hamdu yuhyi ve yumit ve huve hayyun la yemut biyedihil hayr ve huve ala kulli şeyin kadirun ve ileyhil masir. So, and we have been studying how all these phrases point to the divine unity and oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have been covering, we have so far covered 5 phrases over several weeks now. And inshallah, today we will start. We covered last week Lahul Hamd. وهو حي sorry لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت. So we are covering now yuhyi. He grants life, inshallah. And inshallah, I would like to also cover yumit today as well. And of course, it is somewhat relevant to all the events unfolding in Palestine as well. The life and death, right? We are all in this mixture all around us, and it's good to understand how those realities in life point to divine oneness. So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I'll start reading, and then we can, inshallah, talk with our guests. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The 6th phrase, He grants life. That is, it is He alone who gives life, in which case it is also He alone who creates all things. For life is the spirit, light, leaven, foundation, result, and summary of the universe. So whoever grants life must also be the universe's creator. It must be He who grants life. It must be He who grants life, then the ever-living and self-subsistent one. We therefore point out as follows, am I the proof of this degree of the affirmation of divine unity? As has been explained and proved in another part of the Risale-i Nur, we see before us the magnificent army of animate beings with their tents pitched on the plain of the face of the earth. Every spring we behold a new army emerging from the world of the unseen, freshly mobilized, one of the innumerable armies of the ever-living and self-subsistent one. Observing this army, we see within it more than 200,000 different nations from the plant families and more than 100,000 from the animal tribes. Although the uniforms of each tribe and family, as well as their provisions, drill, discharge, arms, and period of service are all different, anyone who has eyes in his head will see, and having seen, will be unable to deny that the commander-in-chief provides all these different needs with perfect orderliness and precise balance at exactly the right time. And he does this through his infinite power and wisdom, his boundless knowledge and will, his unending mercy, in his inexhaustible treasuries, without forgetting a single one of them, or confusing or mixing up or delaying any of them. Is it at all possible then that anything could meddle, interfere, or have a share in this giving of life and administering, in this nurturing and sustaining, other than one who possesses knowledge comprehensive enough to encompass the army together, encompass the army together with all of its affairs, and the absolute power to manage it in addition to providing all its necessities? God forbid, 100,000 times. It is obvious that if there are 10 tribes in one battalion, impotent human beings would be compelled to equip them in a single fashion, because to equip them it is obvious that if there are 10 tribes in one battalion, impotent human beings would be compelled to equip them in a single fashion, because to equip them all separately would be as difficult as equipping 10 battalions. The ever-living and self-subsistent one, however, provides the equipment necessary for the lives for the lives of the more than 300,000 different tribes within that magnificent army. And he does this with no trouble or difficulty, in a light and easy manner, most wisely and maintaining orderliness. He causes the mighty army to declare with one tongue, "It is he who gives life," and the vast congregation in the mosque of the universe to recite, "Allah, there is no God save him, the ever-living and self-subsistent one. Neither slumber overtakes him, nor sleep. His is all that is in the heavens and all that is on earth. Who is there that could intercede with him except by his leave? He knows all that lies open before man and all that is hidden from them, whereas they cannot attain to aught of his knowledge save that which he wills. His throne extends over the heavens and the earth, and he feels no weariness in preserving them. And he alone is truly exalted, tremendous." So inshallah, I read through the whole thing, but of course, as always, we can read through slowly as well. But I would like to turn to my speakers, especially around this yuhyi, the granting of life, and how that actually shows oneness of Allah. We have seen this example of 300,000 species, now actually even more, right? Maybe millions of species perfectly sustained for and everything. So maybe today we have Harun Pirim abi. Maybe I'll start with him. Harun abi, would you like to provide some thoughts to start us off?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time zone. Maybe Khalid Hocam can start off, since you started this, and I tried to go over this amazing treatise from the beginning. It's amazing. What strikes me, usually we just recite this, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. So this beautiful sentences, 11, right? 11 points maybe in these sentences. So all of them are indicating to some qualities. They're giving good tides to us, and I think right now what we are focusing specifically in this sixth phrase, it's with respect to Yuhi, the name Yuhi or Hai, being one of the greatest names to say, and how this being Ismi Azam, greatest names, tell us about, as you say, the unity in everything. So looks like Nursi here provides us an invaluable perspective, for us to see from Ismi Azam point of view what Yuhi tells us. We can see this, and I think it was you, Mustafa, again. We were talking about 6 names in flashes. Over there also we were talking about Ismi Azam perspective, and here it's another one, and it's a little bit different flavor, and it's huge to say. Yeah, that's my introduction, but I think Khalid Hocam, you can just connect maybe everything so that we can move forward.
Sure. Khalid Hocam, any info?
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, you can hear me. I don't think I can improve on what Harun said. Actually, I thought it was an extremely accomplished introduction. I mean, what can I say? Before I came online, I was looking at a photograph that someone sent me of a baby. She's 3 months old now, and I was thinking that all through the pregnancy, and even now, of course, everything in her body, on a corporeal level, millions, trillions of cells and synapses and neurons and everything that makes up a human infant or a human body. There are millions of components, millions and millions of components. Either they are completely interdependent on a corporeal level, which clearly they have to be, otherwise they can't come together of their own free will to serve this little human life, with the emphasis on life, a living, vibrant being who at every second is being constantly recreated and replenished, and this life being extended and continued. All of these things, if they are interdependent, it means that each of those components is both dependent and depended upon. And we know that this, from Ustad's other teachings, it is something that we can't accept. You cannot be hakim and mahkum at the same time. It's a contradiction. And so we realize that in order for all of these components to serve life and to serve human life, they have to be under the same order. They have to be working in accordance with the same command. And this is the same, people used to say to me, well, okay, you say there's only one God, but look, I work in a car factory and there are thousands of us in this car factory. So there can be 1,000 gods. Well, actually, no. Everyone in the car factory, if they're making a car, they're working on a single prototype to a single command. In other words, the plan and the prototype of the car is a single one. I mean, you try working in a restaurant, for example, where every single customer wants something unique and it has to be cooked by a unique set of pots and pans and spoons and sauces and all of these things. It would be chaos. That's a very crude example. If every single worker in the car factory had his own ideas about what a car needs, it would be chaos. If every component in the body of that child had its own idea about how to serve that child, how to provide life, how to give life and continue it, then there would be no child. So, I mean, he grants life. Life is the most mysterious, most enigmatic of the names, actually, of the forces that we encounter. And this is why, I mean, he's talking about the unity here, because life has no causal veil. We know what the symptoms of life are. We know what to look for to say that something is living. But no one has been able to find the causal source of life. So this sixth phrase is incredible on many different levels. Sorry, that was a bit overlong.
No, Jazakallah khair. It was great, mashallah. And yeah, indeed, life, such a miracle that it's only possible through one overseer, right, and one creator. And that definitely is visible. If you go into maybe a little into this details of this example of this, different provisions, drills, discharge arms, and this example of an army. And which, like with
Mustafa, before that, can we talk about in the previous page, there were some attributes of life. Can we talk about them? Like, it's interesting to me. It's what are attributed to life, such as spirit, light, leaven, foundation, result, summary of the universe. I think these are very critical observations.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
For instance, what initially comes to my mind, I was attending a conference. A colleague was, there were many material science people in the conference, but a colleague just said that, are these people studying material science? Looks like everyone is working under biology, all material science is serving, to help, understand the structure of bones, understand the effect of cancer on the body. So looks like even most of the engineering, not just material science, I would say, are working on life or trying to understand animate beings, and that's so obvious because the core of everything is life. So this is why in modern times these days, more and more disciplines are helping biology or helping life-related things. not just medical doctors, all engineering, even social science are looking at the individual lives or, society, life of society. So when I look at that from that perspective, actually, definitely, Nursi is just summarizing us, life is the result, for instance, of the universe. If life is the outcome, then definitely whoever creates the universe should be providing the life or giving life, obviously. So I think this short attributes mentioned here is quite very nicely selected.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. Colin Hocam, any insights onto these attributes of lives from your end too?
I was hoping that Harun Hocam would continue because he's right. There is also, I can't remember, is it in flashes or is it in words? I can't remember where Ustad gives a long list based on life, what life is. Maybe I can't remember. Anyway, someone will remember where it is. Life is the spirit of the universe, is the quintessence of the universe, is the light of the light of this.
29th words, Hocam.
Oh, right. Okay. It's in the 29th word. Thank you. There is a long list. Life, I mean, what can one say about life? Why do we love life so much? Because we don't have it. People talk about my life. You don't have life, sir. You've never had it. You were given life, and you were given life for a purpose. You were given life so that you could know the creator of life. Otherwise, how can you know? How can you know him whose attributes are knowable only through life? This is why we love life. This is why we cling on to life. This is why people, fight wars over life, over not wanting to die. This is why all of our cultural achievements are in a sense a denial of death. We love life so much that we deny death. Conceptually, we deny death. All of our cultural and political movements are based on this denial of death, and this fetishization, actually, of life. It becomes an idol. If you don't believe, you know that you will be eternally living. If you don't believe that, it becomes a tragedy. Life becomes. This is why in modern civilization, the idea of tragicomedy, comedy and tragedy are combined because we are tragic human beings because we have to die. So I can't explain what life is. We all experience it. I can't explain what it is. I can explain what anger is. I can sort of explain what love is, all of these other sort of abstractions, but life is impossible to explain. But we know that we desire it, and we know that we desire it eternally. So everything in creation is pushing us to try to understand this, that life is all of these things, as Harun said. It's the spirit, the light, the leaven, the foundation, the result, and the summary of the universe. It's everything, actually. So it's a big thing. It's telling us a big thing. And it says, whoever grants life, this is where Ustad's genius comes through. Whoever grants life must also be the universe's creator, because nothing else can come even close to even describing life, let alone creating it.
Isn't this argument so simple and so sound? I love whoever
Yes.
grants life must also be universe creator. I think so simple and so strong.
I didn't realize that though, Harun Hojam, until today, realizing this, reading it again. I think, people say, oh, the Risale repeats these things over and over again. Yeah, because we're so blind. Whoever grants life must also be the creator, because can you think of anything created that can even come close to touching the description of life, let alone actually creating life? So it's clear. Why is he granting life? Because he wants us to understand something from that life. And this is what this is all about.
Jazakallah khair. Thanks a lot. These are really profound meanings. I would like to also ask, we have other contributors here as well. If you would like to jump in anytime, please feel free to. We have Fatih abi, Mustafa abi, etc., Cezmi abi. Feel free to jump in as you see fit. But if not, or if there are any questions we can take, but if not, again, we can go maybe and look at this example of the many species at the same time being outfitted with their own uniforms, right? So like the example of an army is for all the living beings, all the species, and that orderliness. So in life itself, how should we understand that example? I will ask about like how do having these many species show one creator rather than a chaos or something like that. Any reflections on that one? Maybe Harnabi?
Yeah, that's amazing. Actually, there are lots to tell. Even I think we can just finish this session, talking about this example only. Again, I think this is very crude and simple example, but it's perfect almost to serve the purpose. The variety of products these days, when I look from industrial engineering or systems engineering perspective, actually we see that most of the factories, have their production systems behind. It's as life defined here, all the production systems is the spirit of these factories. Japanese are very good with that, and we know we have Toyota production system or lean production to quote, and these guys developed many principles that's going to be so helpful, so make the factory in so much harmony, from employees to all production lines, seamless integration of all components of a factory in a way that they can produce, let's say, a car in 5 seconds. So, but the main point is this production system. It is the spirit. It's the life of it, to say. And when you look at this production system in detail, actually, you will see that there is a wisdom behind. Like many engineers, many people sit together to develop such production systems. It includes, integration of all the components of production, and also it integrates scheduling of everything, so that again you can just produce something timely. Even at this production scale, at a company scale, this requires tons of abilities, tons of people bringing in their wisdom so that they can generate such a wise system that's going to make up, all these nice products, cars, to say, that we are driving today. So it becomes really, how to say, funny, maybe, like, even it's not comparable. Like, if I look at a ladybug, I don't know, maybe I saw this ladybugs here in North Dakota a lot these days. When I look at the ladybugs, they are much more beautiful and agile compared to Volkswagen Beetle, for instance. And when we look at the ladybug, it's a complete design, and it's complete flexibility, like, opening all the flies, all the equipments that it has. So it's amazing. We are saying amazing, and we love it, right? So then, of course, I question what is the production system behind. And we can clearly say that it is way higher wisdom, it's a way higher system compared to what we have, the best in our world, in this human world, to say. And exactly, yeah, if we don't have this production system, it's almost impossible, as mentioned here, to provide this variety of equipments, variety of dresses, variety of foods, variety of interests to satisfy. So it becomes impossible. So we have to have this wisdom, power, and will behind, so that we can explain all the variety in this world. We know this varieties, I checked actually today, today's knowledge says we have around 400,000 plant species and 1.5 million animal species. Numbers doesn't matter, they're updated, but it's just have a perspective that how this life and all the species, constituting this life or having this life are so much unique, so much different, that requires complete wisdom, complete power, complete will, and so on.
I have a question for Harun. I mean, leading on from what he said.
Yeah, I talked a lot.
No. I want you to talk more.
More.
Do you think that, like they say, we know that there are 7 main colors, or maybe more, but 7 main ones. And, Microsoft tells us that there are 14 million, maybe even more, because, these are different shades, different colors. You talked about the amazing diversity, Harun, in things. There is the idea, in the hadith, which says Allah has 99 names. We know from Joshan that, there are at least 1,000 that we can think of. Do you think that every diverse being in creation, every unique diverse being in creation is reflective, maybe not of a different name, but of a different configuration or permutation of names? And that's what makes it unique.
Absolutely, Hocam. Yeah, I think you can, of course, explain this better. And of course, when we look at that, the reality of it is reflection of all these names. And as you beautifully say, it's the constellation of names. So when we look at Ladybug, maybe we see Rahim name, Mülevvin name, it has striking color on it, little bit, it looks beautiful. So Jamil name. So we can just see that it represents, and also it reflects some names more than the others. And same for other products to say. When we look at bison, for instance, it's huge, enormous, it maybe tells us about Jalil instead of Jamil more. So, that's that's what Risale-i Nur actually gives us, this perspective, looking everything through Esmail Husna. And that's the reality, that's the ontological fact under everything. Like all this, to respond to your question, yes, all the varieties, all the diversities that we see in this life comes from reflection of names, constellation of names. Otherwise, we cannot, existence would not be there. The real existence is reflections of these constellation of names, to say.
Do you think that there is an infinite number of divine names, actually?
Absolutely. And I think this is in line with science domain. Like here, when we look at the disciplines, sub-disciplines, so by the time sub-disciplines become main disciplines, and we know that the core of these disciplines are Esmail Husna. And by the time we are going to have sub disciplines, so that means actually we are, by the time we will understand subtle names that we haven't seen before. That, by theory, I think, takes us to infinitely many names.
It's really interesting. I don't want to monopolize this with a discussion between me and you, although I would love to continue discussing it. But recently with ChatGPT, which is something I've actually argued with in the past, stupidly, not thinking it was just a machine. But I realized when you ask a question from ChatGPT, a complex question, for example, I'll give you an example. When you ask it to write a famous piece of writing in the style of another author.
Right.
Okay, this would take me, if I tried to do this, even if I could, I would have to know the style of the author. And it would take me a long time. But when I ask it to write certain things in the style of one of my favorite authors, novelist. It does it in seconds. And I'm thinking that technology now has reached a point almost of kun fayakuni sort of rapidity. And we know that in Akhirah, we will have that ability, inshallah. Whatever we want, it will be there in front of us. It's almost reaching that now.
Yes, I agree. We are approaching this absolutely, and looks like it is very helpful for us to understand Esmail Husna, the topic that you bring here. I think these transformer models just help us. Even I'm looking from an angelic perspective. I see these transformer language models as angels.
That's
they're
interesting.
Yeah, they're very similar to me because we know angels in a way help us in a positive way, inspiration. So these language models are serving as artificial angels, to say.
I actually asked it about Ibda and Insha. It was very, very interesting, and it came out with a very correct understanding of Insha and Ibda. And it was trying to say that actually ChatGPT is not vertical, it's horizontal because it's causal. So it actually explained Insha and Ibda, and it cleared up the confusion that no, ChatGPT is not working on an Ibda level, it's working at the level of Insha, which was really interesting.
Nice, yeah, absolutely. But all these technological means, I think, wonderful for us today, to understand Esmail Husna even much better way.
Yeah, I agree. It's just unfortunate that all of these devices and all of these technologies, they have they do have a very, very positive side, but unfortunately, the uses that are made of them are largely negative. So this is something we have to be careful of.
Yeah. By the way, on the chat, Fatabi wrote a quote from Asharatul Ijaz, Signs of Miraculousness. As for name, al-isim, know that Allah has names pertaining to His essence and names pertaining to various sorts of action, such as forgiving, provider, giver of life, and dealer of death, and so on. They are various and numerous because of the multiplicity of the relations of His pre-eternal power with the different kinds of beings.
That's a perfect share.
Perfect, yes, perfect.
That's
perfect. It means they're infinite because relational issues are truly mind-blowingly infinite. That's incredible.
Yeah. Infinite places of manifestation requires infinite names, sounds like.
There was a quote like relationships are the fabric of universe. I love that quote. I should remember exactly, but it was meaning that, and it is so true. Relationships actually, this is how maybe Esmail Husna manifested, and relationships are infinitely many in mathematical terms.
Yeah. So any other connections that you would like to make on the giver of life? I mean, we can either, read through the you meet as well, and then, pick it up again. Or if you would like to share a few more thoughts on the Yuhyi, the giver of life, please feel free to do that. Otherwise, I can start reading the seventh phrase. Any thoughts, or also from our other attendees who would like to talk? If not, I would start with the you meet, inshallah.
Again, here maybe Mustafa, we can talk about this tongue of everything, and that's also a very key term in Risale-i Nur, the tongue of disposition, for instance, from the first word. We know that every existence has a tongue of disposition, which is way stronger language or stronger message compared to our tongue, ordinary tongue. If I say I love you by tongue, actually this is not as, strong as, me showing expression, giving a flower, let's say. So giving a flower in a meaningful way would be stronger than saying that I love you by word. So like this, every existence, and we said relationship is critical with respect to reference to Fatih Abi's, share. So every relationship has a tongue. So this tongue is exactly, it is he who gives life. So everything actually is talking to us and saying that, hey, look at that, I am so important. Hey, look at that, I have no wisdom. Hey, look at that, I don't have these qualities. And of course, this means that, hey, then just look through your eyes, look through your mind, and see that there is a giver of the life, so that I pretend to be, beautiful, I pretend to be, knowledgeable, I pretend to be, standing as I stand here. So I think this is very important notion, this tongue, and how this tongue of this position expresses itself, during the day, during the week, or during even longer durations.
Colin hocam, any
That leaves me with another question, actually.
Go ahead.
And that is, Harun, I didn't quite understand why giving someone a flower would be more powerful than telling them with your tongue that you love them. Whereas we have the created world, which is a kind of, everything has a tongue of disposition, but then we have Quran, which actually is vocal, telling us those things and making it clear. So can you enlighten me on that?
Yeah, Hocam, that's a tough question. And maybe the example that I gave maybe a little bit obscure, but I'm trying to come to the point that, for instance, I'm so much hungry. Maybe that's a better example. If I'm starving, somebody looks to me and sees that I'm starving, I'm just pushing my stomach and, I'm just trying to reach food and I'm not talking about it. That's one scene. And the other scene is, I'm just smiling and saying someone that I'm hungry. So I think the first scene, which is the tongue of my body, is stronger than my ordinary tongue. Of course, I'm relating this to our maybe inclinations from within. And I think Ustad Nursi uses this a lot as well, like evidence of, food's creation. I mean, me feeling hungry is stronger proof to existence of food, than the food itself. So something like
I see. Okay. So you're feeling hungry, which you experience, is more of a proof, actually, in actual fact, than just saying I'm hungry.
Yes.
Yeah, I can get that. Although, to outsiders, it may be different, because some people will say, well, why didn't you just tell me what you wanted? Why did you let me just look at you and think, you're hungry? You should have said earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think you're right. I think the existence of those feelings is more profound.
Some more examples. And also we know that, saying it easier than doing it. So when we see a capability from a person, for instance, a very good engineer again, so if he, studies a lot, achieves a lot, that's a more of a tongue than, he tells himself is a good engineer.
I see. Okay.
So
okay.
It's always the actions, and it's always the stance, or it's always how we act that talks more, or that.
Okay. We say actions speak louder than words. It's a well-known proverb.
Right.
So
part of it like that. Part of it like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
But I think you had asked something, Colin Hocam, also, which is, Quran and the universe. Actually, that's amazing. If I got it correctly, that I feel something different. Like, again, I will give an example from the study. Like, universe is a language of Allah, creator, and Quran is language of the creator. So one is text, the other is, objects to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in this case, actually, it's amazing. I wouldn't say, this word and this object representation, they are equal authentic.
I made the wrong analogy when I said,
Yeah.
Quran and creation. That's saying something very different to what you were saying. I mean, the creation, in a sense, like a human being, you have body language, and you have verbal language, and the creation for me is like body language. It tells us a lot of things, but it's actually the Kalamullah which has to tell us, that absolute definitive truth. I can get a lot from the tree, but when Allah tells me about the truths of reality, then what the tree is telling me through its body language then becomes as though it's the tree actually speaking. So verbal language is always stronger in that sense than body language. But I think what you were saying is valid on a different level.
Great. No more insights onto this topic of tongue, of disposition, and the different tongues. We can probably start. You meet, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. Go for it. You're the boss.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The seventh phrase, and deals death. You meet. It is He, is God, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who causes death. That is, just as it is He who grants life, so it is again He who takes life and grants death. Indeed, death is not only destruction or difficulty, in a light and easy manner, most wisely and maintaining orderliness. He causes the mighty army. Sorry, I skipped to the beginning of this page for some reason. I was losing my. I'll read from the beginning. It deals death. It is He who causes death. That is, just as it is who grants life, so it is again He who takes life and grants death. Indeed, death is not only destruction and extinction, that it may be attributed to causes or nature. Just as a seed superficially dies and rots, while inside it a shoot is being kneaded and is coming to life. That is, it is passing from the particular life of a seed to the universal life of a shoot. So too, although death is apparently disintegration and banishment, in reality for human beings, it is the sign, introduction, and starting point of perpetual life. In which case, the absolutely powerful who grants and administers life must certainly be the one who creates death. The following points to a mighty proof of this, the greatest degree of the affirmation of divine unity contained in this phrase. As is explained in the 24th window of the 33rd letter, through divine will, all beings are flowing. At its sustainer''s command, the universe is in continuous motion. With divine permission, all creatures are unceasingly flowing in the river of time. They are being sent from the world of the unseen. They are being clothed in external existence in the manifest world. Then they are being poured in orderly fashion into the world of the unseen, and it is there that they alight. At their sustainer''s command, they continuously come from the future, stop by in passing, pausing for a breath, and are poured into the past. This flood of creatures is being made from top to bottom with instances of wisdom, benefits, results, and aims within the sphere of a most wise mercy and munificence, as is this constant traveling within the sphere of a most knowledgeable wisdom and orderliness, and this current within the sphere of a most compassionate solicitude and equilibrium. That is to say, an all-powerful one of glory, an all-wise one of perfection, is continuously giving life to and employing the families of beings and the individuals within each family and the worlds that those families form. Then, with his wisdom, he discharges them, manifests death, and dispatches them to the world of the unseen. He transfers them from the realm of power to the realm of knowledge. Is it then at all possible that one who does not have the ability to administer the universe in its totality, whose authority does not stretch throughout time, whose power is not sufficient to make the world manifest life, whose power is not sufficient to make the world manifest life and death like a single individual, who cannot bestow life on the spring as though it were a single flower, attach it to the face of the earth, and then pluck it from it with death and gather it up? Could such a one be the owner of death and the grantor of death? Yes, the death of the lowliest animate being, even like its life, must necessarily occur according to the law of the glorious one, in whose hand are all the truths of life and varieties of death, and with his permission, and at his command, and through his power, and with his knowledge. So again, it's normally a hard topic, death, but seeing the orderliness and this river of life flowing, and the next stages, like the seeds opening up as shoots and trees. So seeing the orderliness and the beauty behind the death might be hard, of course, at the first glance, but I think it's something that is there and that we should try to understand. And yeah, I would like to, inshallah, get thoughts from both Kulnajam and Harnav, inshallah, about this, how death shows divine oneness and unity. I
put the beginning of a poem in the chat.
Yeah.
There's a very famous poem by John Donne. There's a very famous English poet from the 17th century, and it starts, "Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not." And he goes on to say why death actually is nothing, because it allows us to move from here to the eternal realm. Death used to be a subject for conversation. 100 years ago in this country, people used to have on their walls, many people had a little sign which said in Latin, "Memento mori." It means remember, you will die. So people were very aware of death, but today it's a taboo. Death is the last taboo. Death is never spoken about. Modernity has tried to banish death, has tried to cancel it, has tried to destroy death, because death is a huge tragedy. I mean, death means nothingness, means the end. And what Ustad does, and maybe next week we can talk about it at greater depth, he tells us that death is just another part of the whole system. Death needs to be caused, and he causes death, and it's as orderly and as systematic as life. Death has its own dynamic, its own logic. For example, when you plant a seed, if you plant a seed, the seed casing has to die and rot so that what's inside the seed can flourish. So without the death of the seed, or the seed case at least, the tree can't exist. Without our death in this corporeal world, we cannot flourish in the eternal world, because it's a different kind of setup, it's a different kind of system. So, you know, what is suitable and convenient for one system may not be suitable and convenient for another system. You know, there are certain things that we can't do until we're older, because it's not suitable and convenient for a 3-year-old to get married and procreate. It has to wait. It has to die as an infant and be born as an adult. There's this dying and being born all the time. I mean, it happens to us all the time. I'm not a biologist, but biologists will tell you that our cells are being constantly replenished. They're dying and being recreated, and things are coming back, and the whole of the body is continuously, even on a materialistic level, being renewed and replenished. And that involves death. Death is not a state. You can't say that someone is dead and think that that's a state. No, they've died, but the death as such is a kind of progression. It's moving from one state to another. Fatih's just said, we moved the cemeteries out of the cities, terminally ill to hospitals and hospices. Today's humanity is doing everything not to see death and to forget about it. MashaAllah, perfect. Yes, we don't like death. There's a saying in Persian, death is good, but for the neighbor. So as long as the neighbor is the only one who's dying, that's fine. That's okay. It's a terrible thing, terrible thing that we lost. We lost the ability to meditate on death. And believe me, you need it. When you get older, you need that skill. I think thinking about death is a skill. Islam, Quran teaches us that skill, but we've lost it, unfortunately. Sorry, I didn't actually go into the text. I think next week, I think we need to unpack the text, because it's amazing. Ustad is one of the few scholars, actually one of few scholars to say anything worth saying, to be honest. But his talk about these things, about death, he makes death. Harun Hoja has to talk about systems, because death is integral to systems as well, I'm sure. Conceptually, I mean, moving from one state to another, I understand that as death. Moving from one state where you're not in that state anymore to another state is a kind of death, like the fetus in the womb, the child in the womb has to die from the womb. So its womb life has to finish. And then its life in the world begins. So that's a kind of death. I think we have to demystify death. Anyway, that's enough from me.
Jazakallah khair. But yeah, that's actually a great point that Harun Abi could probably walk us through the systems level explanation of death and how we can
Mustafa, not just to name it, but an example popped up is when we check in hotels, actually we check out. So check out is as real as check in. So we cannot say checking in to hotel it's the ultimate reality, and checking out is kind of how to say, it's something so shallow, or it's not orderly to say. So when we see this perfect absolute order in the universe, each moment, somebody or some creature is checking in, and meanwhile there are a lot of checkouts. And we have to talk about checkout process. This is one thing, and nobody can say just checkout process includes cleaning, includes tidying, a lot of actions. So to say actually checking out or dying, that's what it represents in my example. It's not something forgotten, or it's not laid away from management. So it's completely, even maybe it is more subtle management on the checkout side than the check-in side. So check-in, checkout is at least as more important as check-in operation, I would say. And from systems, what you're saying, we know that any system design process, you need to talk about disposal of a system. So disposal of a system is included in system design from day one. So all systems of today, like if you're producing a laptop, you have to design part of the system that lets you recycle this laptop or just phase out this laptop, so that you can produce, many different laptops during the course of 10,000s of years, to say. If you have no planning on the disposal side, then, something would go wrong. Like all laptops would accumulate, and it would be hassle, at the end of the day, and it would be more costly for the company. This is why most of the successful companies today actually request recycling of laptops for free. Like you can send your laptop and they recycle it for free, because otherwise it would be more costly for them. So these are just glimpses of examples that, that disposal, recycling we understand it very well. It has to be part of the system, and it is what we see always happening. And that's very true, and that's with a purpose. And that's very just, and that's very wise to say.
Hocam, we don't need just glimpses. We need you to write a book about the divine names from a systems perspective. And I think one day you will do that.
Hopefully.
Really. I mean, I can see it now more clearly. I've always been interested in systems. I don't know very much about them, but you explain them extremely well with brilliant analogies. All of the divine names, most of the divine names, you will be able to describe from a systems perspective. And I think one day that will be your duty, inshallah. Also, going back to the checkout, it's a great analogy. The only thing is, like when I go to a hotel here or abroad, in Turkey even, they say, "Oh, check out by 10 o'clock." I say, "Well, can it be 12 o'clock?"
Yeah.
Because
I want to leave longer.
I want to live. Yeah, because I take a long time to get ready to leave a hotel room. So I always sort of bargain for more time. So we do this here as well. We want to live longer. We take these pills and creams and do all of these things to live longer, but it's crazy idea.
Yeah, indeed. On the chat, Brother Rizgar has written, the metabolism, preservation of life, equals catabolism, death, plus anabolism, life. So I think, in other words, there's no metabolism if there's no death. It's not only life, but also death needs to be a part of it.
Excellent. I don't know what those words mean apart from metabolism. I sort of understand it, but yeah. I knew the simple words: preservation of life equals death plus life. Brilliant.
Yeah. So, right, we are running out of time. Kulun Hocam, any final insights from your end?
No, just I had great fun today listening to everyone and learned a lot. So thanks to everyone who was here and wrote things in the chat, and of course you as well for moderating, and Harun for his brilliant analogies and systems knowledge, and inshallah his promise to write a book on the divine names from a systems perspective. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Any final words from your end, Harun abi?
Thank you, Mustafa, for moderating this. May Allah make us understand, his beautiful names, including Yuhi ve Yumit.
Cezmi abi, would you like to finish with a dua? Are you ready to do that?
Inshallah, we can make. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير ربنا لا تخرجنا من الدنيا إلا مع الشهادة والإيمان اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة.